Yes. Call the medics, yes. After that, I'm not well, yeah. So that was good. That was good. You, every time you excel yourself, you just, there's nothing like you. So, so Frank is just the greatest, huh? So the idea that we are going to be discussing about the decline always reminds me of the fact that how did we get to a decline? Well, obviously, we had to get to a very high point, and that's, of course, part of our story here. The late Middle Ages, and we associate it with a very beautiful place in southern France, which I highly recommend, Avignon, down near the Italian border. But today we're going to talk about why did they have to have a decline? And of course, a lot of it has to do with the fact that by the growth of its authority, influence, and power, inevitably there will be competition and resentment. And that's part of the decline. I emphasize here it doesn't have to do with spiritual teachings. The Catholic Church is centuries away from the Reformation. So this is not to imply that in this particular period of the 14th century, people are seeking to form another church. They're simply trying to improve the church that they have. And of course, part of it is number one and the papacy. Now, here are the factors. Conflict with secular monarchs. And that's not to be unexpected, given the fact that popes want to claim authorities that kings want to have. This has been going on a very long time indeed. In fact, almost since the beginning of Christianity, render unto Caesar, render unto God. So how long does that go back? Well, as you well know, 590 to 604. She is a date person and she knows all these years. Her knowledge is encyclopedic, but I don't mean to brag about her. But secondly, of course, we understand that, a la George Orwell, all bishops are equal, but some are more equal than others. And we are, of course, talking about the Pope. Yes, he was a bishop, but all of the other bishops are beneath him, so he asserts. Servant of the servants of God, Gregory first, right? So all of that, you said they accept it, but they resent it, like people, they like, yes, sir, and then they get among themselves and say, gosh, he is so pushy. I really resent that. I would like to say I'm lying, but I'm not. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. Bureaucracy and administration. Oh, we love bureaucrats and administrators because they've got their pensions and they've got all the health care and dental plans. We understand all of that. Administration can be expensive, but we've got to have, we used to call them pencil pushers. I don't guess they do that anymore. I guess they just operate computers. But in the day, we talked about bureaucrats, and nobody could do it better than the papacy. And you know why? Because the papacy had the largest administrative edifice. This goes back centuries. If you had been a lay king, like a regular ruler, you would have wanted the papacy. You would have been so jealous. They knew how to collect taxes very well. They knew how to, if any bishops were acting up, if you said, I know you're a nepotist, I know you're a simoniac, and we're going to bring you down. He said, you can't make me. Well, I can tell the Pope about you and then see how you stand. So all of this is to say that we all know if you want lots of administration, you got to set up that bureaucracy. And there are lots of them, and people don't like it. They never do. I mean, in terms of governmental divisions, how would you rate my bureaucracy, IRS? I mean, it's like we want to love them because they have a hard job, but it's just they're not running for most popular bureaucracy. And that's the same thing as we're going to see a lot of these papal bureaucrats. They're holding out their hands to even other church leaders and saying, I'm looking over your books and I just don't think you gave the proper amount to Rome this month, and that kind of thing. And they'll go over your, all of that creates resentment. And of course, the ugly H word, heresies. Now, I call these popular heresies, not in the sense of somebody's running for the title, but the idea of not theological heresies. These heresies are popular with mass groups. Some of you will remember I talked about the Waldensians and people of that sort. Just be like the Lord, give away all that you have and follow me. And people go with that. Those groups will continue to be popular because they look at these papal bureaucrats, administrators, and so forth and so on. And they think this is not what Jesus was preaching about because our leader, and here's a new word for you, and drop this, heresiarch, and see how many of your friends know about leader of the heresy. Yeah, see, heresiarch, try that out. You'll be a very popular. People will admire you, be glad you have the Auburn education. Yeah, I mean, War Eagle. Yeah, got that heresiarch. So if you know some heresiarchs, please tell me about them. I want to meet them. I'll take them out for lunch. So all of these are areas of concern for the church at this time. And then, of course, the popes themselves are sometimes they're innocent third wannabes. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm kind of partial to innocent third. Maybe, Pope at 37, I think that's pretty great. And he had degrees in canon law and various other fields. So I won't go on about that. But the popes of the 13th century are very good at law and administration, not so much on the spiritual aspects of things. And if I do say so, Innocent III knew how to juggle a lot of balls. Of course, that may have led to his early death in 1216. I don't know about that. But his successors, like Boniface VIII here, and you see his hat or headpiece representing the three churches, the church expectant, the church militant, the church triumphant, and of course the keys to the kingdom. But however he was portrayed, he was an arrogant man and an individual who most scholars would say used their authority for the benefit of his family or simply to benefit himself. But he became Pope at a very crucial time, because it was also the time when the king, Philippe le Bel, as he's sometimes called in French, Philip the Handsome, Philip the Fair, was also attempting to develop his bureaucracy and his power over the nobility, which included clergy, bishops, and such. And so there is an inevitable clash, a clash that will be embarrassing for the Pope, because agents of the French king will sort of put him under house arrest and he will die a few days later. And I don't think anybody missed him. It's not that kind of sorrow, it's more like, oh, you know how they talk about PR? It doesn't look good for the papacy. I wish I could go into all of this, but it's to understand the significance of, like, ratemypope.com, and you would get, like, people would go 2 stars maybe. I mean, it just doesn't look good. And that's, of course, to appreciate what we call the Babylonian captivity. Do you know that term? Of course you do, from the Old Testament. The idea that the Jews were captured and they remained in Babylon during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar and all of that. So the term is used basically to say the papacy had been captured by the French king. You say, well, that's a stretch from Hebrews and Babylonians, but you got to work with me here to see and of course, this will be done by the famous Petrarch. Remember Petrarch, who's the poet? He was doing it. And of course, if you say, well, isn't that a bit pejorative? Of course it is. He's accusing the French of being like Babylonians, and Babylonians are rated X because they are not nice people. I mean, Jews, Babylonians, get it? Not good. So, I mean, you want to go Assyrians? We can keep going, some bad folks. Because that's the idea, Babylonian captivity. And of course, when we go all the way down to Avignon, not a bad place to be in captivity. And I can tell you, now you'll think I'm a travel agent for the Babylonian Chamber of Commerce, because I want to recommend it for those who are up to a nice trip. I went to Facebook and I found a hotel room for $105 a night. I was so excited because I couldn't get anything like that in New York. I mean, $105. I'm going, c'est bon, c'est bon. I'm out of here. And you think it's got to be like a YMCA or something. No, it's very nice. I check out the rooms, and it's way down here, Rhone River. Lots of nice wine if you're into that. Beautiful area. But none of this has to do with the glorious tour, which will be part of your trip. It's all inclusive. Okay. So we have big plans for you. Yeah. Walking tour of the area. We have tours. We feature them in German, English, Italian. So if you are a polyglot, you'll be in luck. We have them 7 days a week. all hours that you want to tour. Because, of course, this Avignon is famous as being the home of the popes. It had been for a long time, but they still talk about it. And lots of other things go on in Avignon, including great arts festivals and so forth, which I don't care about because my heart's I'm also about that 14th century. So I know I should be a little bit more open-minded. It's really sad. But yeah, I just want to go over that tour over and over again, the Palais du Pape, which we're going to. But the idea of why are you there if you're the Pope? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. And Frank mentioned him somewhat disparagingly. And I don't want to bring that up. That was hurtful, but I'm going to deal with that later. I don't really believe Clement V looked like that. I think they just, he may have, but there is no reason to think. I think they just had some guy and said, would you like to pose for a Pope picture? And he said, we, gosh, anything for money. And you will see on your tour of Avignon, you will get to see these portraits. So yeah, this is just, I'm not selling, I'm just saying it's going to be great. And you can get a postcard, as I did, of I'm in Avignon, wish you were here, those kind of things. Or a t-shirt with all the portraits on it that you could take to loved ones, bring them home. So all of that in one package. So who was he? Well, he was not a cardinal, meaning he's not your typical pope to be. Because most popes had been cardinals because they are like the advisors to the popes. And so you look at the pope and you go like, yeah, someday my doctor says I'm doing great. So I think I'm going to get it next time. That kind of thing. You're not wishing ill on the current pope. Something should happen. I'm there. And that's not Clement. He was Archbishop of Bordeaux, which is the other side of France. And I think he was probably elected because they wanted someone sort of a non-Boniface, if you will. It's like after Boniface, they were going like, he was such a loser. Can't we get somebody? So this is like the anti-Boniface. And he is not a cardinal. And what happens to Clement, and those are his papal dates, 1305 to 1314, but you don't have to know that. Okay. Just note that, in case it comes up again. He will sort of wander about, sort of like you might like to stay at Hamptons or Days Inns when you travel. He stayed in monasteries because it took a long time to get from Bordeaux all the way across Europe. And I'm serious. He did stay at those places, and I'm sure they gave him the best, that Abbott Suite or somewhere really comfortable. It's like trying to think about what would be the nicest place in a monastery. I'm thinking like you have room service. I'm sure they would come and fix him up with it, whatever he needed. So he makes this long, what would you say, progression across Western Europe. And then he gets word, things are not really as they need to be in the area of Rome. And he is, like so many of us, somewhat of a dawdler. Can't make up his mind. Should I go? I don't know. Sounds pretty bad down there. All of the reports. So he never makes it. And that will go on for years, dealing with the problems. He will not do a very good job. As a matter of fact, the story has it that he and Philip were in almost, as they would say in the old movies, cahoots, because, and this is strictly a rumor, there is no reason necessarily to believe it, but Philip needed money, don't they always? And basically, after Boniface, Philip contacts the Archbishop of Bordeaux. Remember, Bordeaux is geographically in France. So he goes to talk it over with the future Clement V and says, how would you like to be Pope? Well, of course. Who's going to say, oh, sir, that's just too much. I just want to love you. I mean, I know how to be a sycophant, but that's pushing the butt. I mean, yeah, but yeah, I'd love to be Pope. So what do I have to do? You work with me. I've got a plan. And the plan, of course, is the elimination of what we call the Knights Templars. And this is a famous story that will end up supposedly on a curse on both Clement and Philip, who mysteriously died in 1314. You don't have to know that. But they both died in 1314. Aren't you glad that's exempt? You're exempt from that, knowing all these days. The idea, of course, of the Knights Templars was a military monastic order, and the heyday of the Crusades, and it's kind of, that was then, and this is now. We haven't got a good crusade, and you're feeling like, I don't know, not useless, but you're thinking like, how to be a monk and a knight at the same time, which is an interesting activity, I suspect. But they must have functioned then in the Crusades, and presumably they lived by the standards of chastity and prayer and so forth. And at the same time, when the Crusades ended, as we saw, they began to wonder, what can we do now? And then they thought, and again, seems odd to me, banking. Yeah, I mean, you think, could you go from service to the Lord to banking? Well, yeah, because we're generating revenue for the faith. Right. But anyway, they became very good at money lending and God's money, mind you, and understand that the Knights were, and we love our Wells Fargo, we love all our friends in bankers. I have no problem with that. But these Knights Templars were big fat capitalists, serious money makers. I mean, interest rates were high. Never mind that, Philip saw it and lost it. Not after the Knights, after the money. And of course, that will become useful in the relationship with Clement. Suffice it to say that the stories about how the Knights Templars were destroyed by the king to acquire their money, and the curse that was put on both king and pope by the Knights Templars before they were eliminated for trumped up charges of sodomy, usury, whatnot. And I have no reason to necessarily believe all of those charges, but it was certainly convenient for King Philip IV. So That's our Clement. And 1305 to 1314. And you can imagine that when he did die, same year as Philip IV, mind you, that he thought, gee, I wish I were back in Bordeaux. I mean, it was not a problem. And he never made it to Rome. You know, those procrastinators who say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to clean out that closet. I'm going to get my spring cleaning. It's April to get your spring cleaning done, you know, and I bet all of you know the feelings. You've got your list of tasks that you want to perform and all of that, but he never got around to so much. But he's the first of these popes. And of course, the ones that follow similarly intend to go, but never make it. One of my favorites, I have so many, but the second one had actually been Bishop of Avignon, John 22nd, 1316 to 1334. And he had been associated, remember the Angevin government when we talked about Naples and Sicily? You remember. And so he had been associated with them. So he's pretty cozy. If he's cozy with Angevins, you figure he's cozy with the French. Again, I don't use the nationalism word. I simply understand they have these relationships and it'll be useful in terms of, writing a letter of rec if you want to get one of your kinfolk in position in the church. He's a really outstanding student and very industrious. And I would love to see him as a junior bishop or something like that. Yeah, and then we can work. Yes, sir, we can handle that. And you think, but isn't that nepotism or favoritism? Well, but it's an outstanding family. So that's the way it was working. And he was very involved because, of course, being a man of finance in today's world, he would have had an MBA because he understood how to work the system. One of the ironies of these popes at Avignon is that they were brilliant administrators, not always terribly religious, but quite often very good at maintaining papal authority in the business sense. For example, with the annates, which he will enforce with his agents, means that the first year's income of every bishop comes to the papacy. Yeah. So you want to be a bishop? Oh, oui, sir. Can I be a bishop? Yes, you can, but it'll cost you the annate. And then you say, can I do it on time? Sure, you can. Yeah. We've got a payment program that will work out for you. I mean, you thought that was new. No, we've been doing time payments a long time. And the annex, because, I was such an idiot in college. I thought, annex means you had to come up with cash up front. No, we can work it out. Annual love payments. There will be an interest charge, a carrying charge. Don't they call it that? Yeah. So, yeah. And there will be those are little payments. And then, we've got a whole financial wing that will handle that for you, your payments. Oh, and we don't have an opening right now, but we think we're going to have one. How would you like an expectative grace? I love that. I want an expectative grace. Try that at a party. Nobody would. Oh, after your heresiarch, you will truly be the center of attention. So Who wants an expectative grace? And expectative grace means when there's an opening available, then you could be up for it. Well, yeah, but what does that mean? Well, it means just what it says. I mean, somebody dies or retires, whichever comes first, you will have the first chance at that post in the church. Oh, merci. Thank you so much. No. There's a social. I mean, no freebie. I mean, you're going. An expectative grace is an annual thing. If you want to continue your annual expectative grace. Oh, I heard there's an interview coming up. Would you like that? Yeah. Expectative grace. Grease. Palm. Greasy palm. So he's very good at that. Does that create resentment? You betcha. And meanwhile, of course, John gets himself in all kinds of problems in terms of theology involving what's called a beatific vision, meaning when Christians who die, do they immediately go before the throne of God, or do they wait until the end of time and basically sort of remain in suspense? And so he got himself on the wrong side of the issue and he had to retract, and that's not a good position for a pope. And the Franciscans had now split up over the issue of whether Christ approved of private property. And so there was like a smaller wing of the Franciscans who, I call them purists, they spiritual Franciscans. They said, indeed not. Christ did not use or have property. And then he's in the middle of that. So John 22nd held on though for a long time. And he was what they call in the books irascible. So that's either good or bad, depending on your point of view. But he had an exciting reign. Don't worry, I can't go over all of them. There was no palace of the popes, by the way, during either of those reigns. But finally, by Pope number 3, they began to decide, yeah, maybe we need to get somewhere to kind of hang out. Instead, these monasteries are kind of complaining because, you love company, but don't we get tired of them after a while. So it's basically, maybe we can build a nice home. Well, of course, we can't just have any old place. We can't just have some split level suburban house. I mean, you're gonna go big, right? I mean, I'm the Pope, right? And I got a lot of company, and they expect to have a nice place. So this will be the result, and it's there for you to tour in many languages. So many opportunities with very reasonably priced tours and rooms, accommodation. So all of this is the Palais Pop, lots of other things to do, and it will be done. And I imagine it was not inexpensive, but I imagine there were lots of God's money that went into it, to the cost of this building. They already had the reputation, these popes, of being French stoolies, if you will, which is not, to me, fair. But again, Avignon was not then French. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? Now, again, little known history fact, impressing people at the party. Until 1790, the French government did not own Avignon. Yeah, I know they'll be shocked. Avignon was annexed in 1790. Now, I will demand you know that date. That whole area had been under the control of the Neapolitan rulers, the Angevin. Yeah. But 1790, there was something called the French Revolution, and they took it. It'd been a long time since the popes had been there. So the popes down in Rome probably sent a note and said, we're really hurt that you took Avignon, but they got over it. I mean, they dealt with their pain. So moving right along, the history of Avignon after this, Napoleon using it as a stable for horses. That's kind of rude, but that's the way it goes. But you would not know that now. However, I want to prepare you, if you haven't already been, for the shock. It's empty. And you think, but you probably had vivid imaginations. I know I do. So when you go in there, you can just say, gosh, all those people on their knees loving the successor of Peter. I know. And that makes it exciting enough. But you got to think about all that. I mean, you can't just look at the emptiness and say, wow, I wish the movers hadn't come. But yeah. And some people, I guess, the French took everything out, but that was that. But luckily, they never tore it down, so it has remained. This was apparently where the Pope received special guests. So if you were like ambassadors from rulers, or, maybe those blankety blank Orthodox from the East, and yeah, you on your knees, you say, you know where you are. This is Popeville. You better behave yourself. So all of this is quite an edifice, but I bet you, if you meet some Avignon artists or other intellectuals there in Avignon, I bet they don't know all of this. Yeah. So you might want to challenge them and say, how much do you know? And give them several numbers and see if they know how many Avignon popes there were. And I think your knowledge will be superior. Yes, your Ollie knowledge. Remember that. So, what will happen finally? I think this is highly, if you want to call that great art, maybe to me it's a little busy, but you see the Pope there. I'm wondering if he really, I think the artist used a lot of imagination, shall we say. Pope Gregory the 11th had been getting a lot of bad publicity. He was number 7, pretty young. 45, so. And he'd been getting a lot of publicity, you all need to be in Rome. Rome was somewhat better. And of course, if you had been on the Roman Chamber of Commerce, how would you feel about Avignon? Not well. What do you think about the sales? I mean, like T-shirts, postcards. I mean, all of the things that you think about when you think of tourism, because I've been pushing Avignon hard. And you think about how would people feel? And I think Gregory the 11th, nice guy, I'm sure. He decided he would go back, and Peter and Paul seem to be very happy up there. And everybody's there, and you have the authorities who seem to be Greco-Roman gods. Never mind that, but they're all excited. Everybody's really happy. But I bet you those folks in Avignon are not happy a bit. Because they aren't, they're not saying, arrivederci, want to wish you all the best, have a great trip, bon voyage, and all that. They're like already, think about your revenues. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. So Gregory 11th, then you see the year 1376, you don't have to know that. He will return. He'd never been there, but he will be the last of those 7 popes. And, sadly enough, he gets there and he says, gosh, Rome seemed like a good idea at the time, but maybe it wasn't such a good idea. I love Rome, and I'm Leonardo da Vinci Airport and Italia. I love Delta, though. Delta's number one, admitted. But I'm just saying that in terms of Gregory the 11th, this nice French fella, he began to think maybe this was a mistake. Well, guess what happened? He died. 49 years old. I know. Life insurance folks wouldn't like that. And you think, well, I imagine they used to say on the old commercial, Rome could be hazardous to your health. I'm not sure that was necessarily a good place for a pope, even a relatively young one. So he died just as he was getting his staff, talk about irony, to pack up. They were going back to Avignon, and now he died. Talk about an irony. So, what happens now? Story time. We talked about none of us are dour people because you wouldn't be admitted to Avi. We don't allow dour people in here. But doesn't that look dour? I think he's got, maybe you're just having a dour day. Sometimes maybe we have bad days. And you'll see why. He will be the new pope. He was Italian, love Italians. So let's not knock Italians. not to blame. Yeah. I love Italian. Italians are greatest. But the idea being that he was not a cardinal. He'd been a bureaucrat up in Avignon. He had been Archbishop of Bari, a city down in southern Italy, and maybe like a lot of us, why can't I have tenure? Why can't I be a full professor? I mean, we all have dreams. Some don't happen. And he never became a cardinal. But for some reason, a college of cardinals split between Italian and French people, decided narrowly to elect him. Another non-cardinal. Remember Clement V, 1305 to 1314. Remember that? And he takes the title Urban VI. And he says, gosh, we really miss Gregory XI, but I'm going to carry on. But you know what? A la Frank Sinatra, I'm going to do it my way. Yeah. And you think, oh, this is going to be wonderful. Because I bet you it's all about love, peace, Christian brotherhood. Not necessarily. He had issues that sometimes we call Yeah, anger management. And they didn't have the meds they do now. Yeah, he definitely needed to pop one. He would, and maybe he meant well. I try to be nice. I want to be charitable. Yeah. So the idea is that those cardinals would be a little uppity with him when he was the Pope, and they would go, "My palace is as good as yours." And you weren't even a cardinal. You know, that kind of thing. That can hurt. That can hurt. And it appears that he was trying to put the Cardinals on a budget. And what do they call a ceiling? Yeah, and make them expense accounts. Bummer. Yeah, I know. I know. I've got this trip planned for the Riviera, that kind of thing. Because the Cardinals, they weren't living like Jesus. Let me just put that. So, can you see in this? See the Cardinal there? Yeah, he's getting him a beating. And this is not the flagellants. This is not for spiritual reasons. He's just having a bad day. Yeah. And there were lots of those. And so, I mean, I'm in all fairness to Urban, he had good days. Gosh, I love people who need people, are the luckiest people in the world. And I'm thinking, with love. Yeah, right. All of this then is to say that Urban VI had a very mixed record as Pope and his share of many, many problems. But he had gotten back to Rome. Unfortunately for Urban, he had offended so many of the French-oriented cardinals that they would get together and maybe have a, sort of a French conclave. And somebody said, how gossip is. They began to say, God often talks to us when a new pope is being elected, but I think someone misinterpreted God's message. I'm not sure that God was really speaking. You know who I think was speaking? Satan. Because I think one of his agents is now Urban VI. You mean? Yes, I do. Satanic. And not the real Pope. So there is no Pope? Indeed not. Well, what are we going to do? Do we wait until he starts, his heart gives out, or his blood pressure goes up? Cholesterol issue? No. We just nullify the election. And when we nullify the election, he won't be Pope anymore. Well, a lot of people were not pleased with this, and including the woman you see here, and many of you are Catholic, will know her, St. Catherine of Siena. You know, she died at the age of 33. Do you see those dates? And of course, you know who else died at 33, and that will be identified, that she will be truly Christ's daughter, and she will have quite a reputation as a mystic. But my interest in her is as a great lobbyist, and I mean that in the nicest way. St. Catherine wanted the Pope to be in Rome, so she will be one of the major agents who will work on Gregory the 11th to get him back there, and now to sort of help Urban VI. And it's important to understand that, because Does she look like a lobbyist to you? Some meanie? No, because she's truly a saint. As a matter of fact, and this is a point that I was not aware of, and I like to share with you. In 1970, she was made a doctor of the church, probably the first woman in the history of the Catholic Church to get that honor. And you think, how is she a doctor of the church? She was probably illiterate. Most of her writings were simply dictated, including many, many letters in which she will say to the popes what she thinks. And they can be quite blunt. I mean, respectful, but still tell them, get off your duffs and do this. But she was very, very influential, and her mysticism, which is highly significant in the Catholic Church, was very, very important in her, for me, short life. I think all of us, 33 is quite young. All of this is to say that regardless of Catherine or others, the French-oriented return to Avignon. They probably got those good rates that I'm telling you all about. And they said, now we can get a real pope instead of that loser back in Rome. See, you talk sassy like that when he's not around and he can't beat you. Yeah, you can't hit me. I'm up here. And they will elect one of themselves as Pope Clement VII. Why do we say anti-pope? But the Catholic Church does not regard him as a true pope. So if you you can get the official chart, the website, you can go and get your own, I think there are too many of them to be just on a t-shirt, but that would have to be an extra long shirt, right? But they don't even put these, it's not like also ran or like, if you're an anti-pope, damn you. Okay. So, but that's Clement. He had been a cardinal, and that's the title. Clement was a popular name, obviously for popes. So he lives there, and apparently they were thinking, well, whoever goes first, then we'll just have one pope. Or maybe one will decide the Lord wants him to just step down. Don't they call it in business golden parachute? Yeah. Maybe one of the popes can get a golden parachute, and no golden parachutes were coming their way. So they both stayed on. As a result, we will have what I call, or I pronounce, the papal schism. If you say schism, there are two pronunciations. Check your dictionary, I promise. I just prefer schism. I don't know, that's just me. But they're both correct. In any event, it is fascinating, at least to me, to see. Oh, see, there's a map for every occasion. It's like Hallmark of maps. I mean, I just, you see this and you think, gosh, see the ones that are the purple are connected with Avignon. And see those Scots and how they love Avignon. Gosh, well, what does that show us? Well, I think it shows us that England favors Rome. And you think, did they take a vote, or how did that happen? Popular margin? Did they have campaigns? Who's the real pope? Whoever the king liked. And I think it had to do, I hate to say this, maybe a little, sometimes the filth of lucre will work for you. Hey, you want to recognize me as Pope? I don't know, man. I think there could be something for you. Maybe I've just seen too many of the HBO crime dramas. Yeah, I think there is some bad stuff going on. But you see the different areas, and then sometimes they can be flipped. Isn't that what they call it? Flipped? Yeah, I'm trying to sound like I'm with it. With the yeah, on the streets. Yeah, main streets. And that, you see, some of them will change during the schism. Would say, yeah, I've thought a lot about it. Yeah. And then, yeah, now I'm seeing more of the claims of who was the real Pope. But anyway, it's divided up and you can't go both ways. If you go one way, then you can always think, well, maybe the other guy will die sometime. But every time one dies, then they'll have another election. And so the Pope or anti-Pope, the new one, he'll say, my first goal as your new Pope is to damn the other one and to lead to a new regime. So the whole schism idea, the division, is not going to go well. Because Avignon and Rome, I mean, you think about your budget. I mean, I don't think about all those cardinals, expense accounts. Think about your entertainment. I mean, God, having all of them, and you can't put them in a econo or like sharing a bathroom. These are not YMCA people. I mean, they were expecting all the nice things. And so luckily, they seem to be separated, but it depends on the kings and understand, of course, the kings do so because whatever will work for their interest. And if you are like, you disagree with the decision, I would be real quiet about it. Okay, you don't wear a big T-shirt and says "I love Avignon" if you live in, London, and and you heart Avignon something. Because it's a no. So that's the way it goes for years to come. Meanwhile, the ideas called conciliarism, which still go on in many ways in the Catholic Church today, the idea of the council of Christians being superior to a pope. Now, popes, as a rule, through the centuries, have not particularly liked that idea because they say, I'm number one, and so what I say goes. But conciliarism basically assumes that a council of all of the church people, including laymen, is superior to a pope. The first time they tried it in the beautiful city of Pisa up north, Leaning Tower up, led only to this Pousseau, although I love his tomb. Has a nice tomb. Well, I guess he got to see it, because I mentioned they just put in the finishing touches on it when he died. Pope John 23rd, and historically, you may remember him 1958 to 1963. Maybe not, but it's okay. You won't still think highly of you. I don't condemn you for one failing. Basically, John 23rd was the real John 23rd. This is a fake. It's an anti-pope, but a beautiful place to go. Yeah. So that's why I want to share that. All of that is to say that instead of getting rid of the two popes, they now had a third. And that was a very difficult thing. I mean, it's almost ludicrous now, but at the time, ratemypope.com. I mean, again, what are you going to do about your PR and all the rest of it? And the fact is that it did not help at all. Finally, all three popes are deposed, golden parachuted, if you will. Maybe they were given nice trips. One ended up in Spain, believe it or not. And he was basically told his cardinals, maybe he, having a little bit of mental issues, and he was told, oh, the crowds are just waiting for you. Wait, everybody. I mean, he's probably out of it a bit. But basically, they were deposed, and still another pope who promised to follow the edicts of the councils would now be in place. This is the Council of Constance. I love the colors from the manuscripts. That would show, of course, all the folks around the new pope.
Was that Constance in Germany? The Council of Constance was in Constance, Germany?
Yes.
The city was in Germany?
I think it's in northern Italy, though, actually. But I'll have to check, Charlie. Thank you. Yeah, that could be. But it's definitely not near Rome. And the idea is that they're bringing in people. And he's a member of the Colonna family. And for those who know much about Italy, they have lots of clout. And this fellow who becomes Pope Martin V, and you see his dates, 15th century. He says, oh, I love church councils. If you choose me, he probably goes to a caucus or some cardinal caucus and says, gosh, I love all you fellas. You ain't heavy, you my brother, like, yes. And he basically is saying, I just want to work with you because I love you so much. Heart you. So all of this is to say that he now became the new pope as Pope Martin V. The other popes are gone. And if you were a supporter of one of the popes of the past, sorry. That is over. And a new path. Does that mean that everybody is accepting conciliarism? No, it just means that he said it as long as he was running. And once he gets installed, he's going to go, you know what I said about conciliarism? I was joking. Really, I am number one, and it's best for you, unless you want to feel my cane on your head, is for you to be obedient to me. So, is that good for the popes? Well, I don't think so. When you think about the future of the papacy, in any event, they do have to deal with the Hussite movement, which many of you know about in this period, a group that some claim in proto-Protestant Czechs, and led by a, shall we say, troublesome priest and scholar. Well, but he was in the church. He was a churchman. And but both of them. And the idea was that as his refusal to renounce what the Catholic Church considered heresy, the lay people executed him. So this is probably not useful, but it certainly was a unifier in terms of the council and the Pope. I mean, they were all in favor of it because Again, if you remember what we said about inquisitions, if you were willing to recant and say you were wrong and he was not, so that's more or less a ticket to execution. Again, whether or not this was important in papal authority, I'm not sure, but we noted in terms of religious intolerance of the day. What did they believe? Well, again, many ideas that now we consider to be Protestant, but you notice I put true church in quotation marks, having to do, instead of believing that all baptized Christians are the church, they believe only truly committed Christians are the quote unquote true church. And biblical literalism. And again, in a day when most people were illiterate, they were sort of based on people reading the Bible and having that particular experience. So obviously, we're dealing primarily with a group that we would call middle class today, I dare say. And of course, they tend to be anti-clerical, so I don't think they're going to be too interested in giving those nice sweets to the cardinals because they tend to be based on the lay people being in charge and the clergy looking after the folks. The illustration of the heresiarch, yeah, see, used in a sentence that you will remember, I think is clear enough. Meanwhile, Pius II, and you notice his dates right after Martin. And I love the name of this execrabilis. Have you ever met somebody at a party and said, God, they're execrable? That's ugly. I mean, yeah, because that means you don't like them, but I'm sure you like everybody. So it's, this means basically, if you bring up a council, it's a no-no. You say, but I thought, well, you thought wrong. Maybe your grandpa told you that, but they got it wrong. Damn wrong. Yeah, and you say, wow, that's strong language. Well, you're a strong sinner. So, Pius II, of whom I know so little, so he's not going to make my top 10 popes, believe me. Pius II issued this, basically said, to appeal from a pope to a council is execrable, detestable, damnable, and I could use even stronger language, but I don't want to. I just want you to understand it may have been cool before. It's not cool anymore. Okay, put up those t-shirts because you got, I love councils. No, put that away in the hope chest because you won't be needing it for a long time because these popes are just not accepting it. And it's like, it seemed like such a good idea. Well, the popes don't see it that way because, of course, it's going to limit their authority. It's going to make you like, I tried to, I used to try to compare it to students to having to be like a president of Auburn and having to go to the board of trustees. And I mean, I'm sure they really want to and they love each other very much. But I'm just saying, in not all happy places like Auburn, there may be other places where college or university presidents find board of trustees difficult, shall we say. maybe Alabama. I don't know. I'm just saying. But all of this then is to say popes do not like to have to go before these councils. And so we won't do it. So if they're not worried then about councils, what are they going to have to worry about? Money. We never can get enough. We have bills to pay. And what do we have bills for? Equestrian studies, for one. They love them some horses. They love riding. They love hunting. They are real busy. Not necessarily physical fitness, because they're not on salads. They're eating some unhealthy meals. But why shouldn't they? That's why they grew up. The Pope here, one of my favorites, is Pope Leo X. And of course, Raphael, for you art history people. And his young cousin is behind him, who will be the real Clement VII. No telling what Raphael charged the papacy for that, but it was not, they got no discounts, believe you me. I'm sure that was a very expensive, and we've been thankful for it ever since. Grazie, as they say in the mother country. All of this is to say that in addition to horses, hunting, we got those deer, we got to have something to kill, right? So all of this means that we have that to do. We've got big meals to plan. But why shouldn't we, if we're Pope and we're a member of a very important family from Florence, and we know the family well, the Medici. The Medici, and what's a younger brother to do? Become Pope. Because, yeah, not everybody can be junior. Lorenzo the Magnificent, but if you're number two, become Pope. And all of the idea then of the wealth of the papacy will then be devoted to his pleasure and his interests. Can you imagine the cost here? It's hard to believe, because we think about what he will try to do. Fundraise. What do you call it now? Department of Advancement or Development, thank you. Yeah. So we all know about development nowadays. Could you imagine? You think, well, shouldn't they just spend the Medici money? Well, that helps. I mean, that's just like, what would you call it? It's like little whipped cream on the top of the pie, but we got to have more. So what do? Would you like for your kids to have nice positions? You mean, yes, I do. There'll be simoniacs, nepotism. But Gregory's okay with that, apparently, because he's busy. Now, look at this. I love the picture because he's interested in manuscripts. He's got a busy schedule. You say, but doesn't he need to be celebrating Mass? Or, well, yeah, I guess. But basically, he has a rich, full life. And I'm not sure how much that quote unquote religion is involved. Now, it's like I've talked about the Prince of Denmark and haven't mentioned Hamlet, because, of course, when we think about this individual, we think of the man that this Pope described as the very unflattering term, wild boar. I don't mean people at the party, B-O-A-R, boar, that kind of boar, not those. They're there too, and sometimes wild, but they can be tamed too. But these are wild boars, and you say, who would fit that appellation? Because that's hurtful. You don't walk up to folks and say you're a wild boar. It's that little German, Martin Luther. No, Martin Luther. The idea being, of course, that under Leo X, we have the beginnings of the split. That will be so very important. Well, thank you all. I'll look forward to seeing you next week because on we'll go to the 100 Years' War. And you won't forget anything. Okay. Boars and boars.
We love already spurred.